Welcome, everyone. I'm Sue Barber, author, former IT director for a Fortune 500 company, turned executive coach, and this is the Visibility Factor podcast, where we explore how to raise your visibility and play bigger at work and in life. We'll explore key topics and welcome guests that help you shift your thinking about yourself so you can see new possibilities for your leadership. I'm on a mission to create a visibility movement for leaders to show their value and be seen for their true talent. Are you ready to take the next step towards a higher level of visibility for yourself? Let's go. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Visibility Factor podcast. This is Sue Barber, your host. Today's episode is coming to you the day after Christmas here in the US or wherever you may be celebrating Christmas. So I know many of you may not listen today, but I wanted to share some things with you that I think you can take advantage of while you're enjoying the holidays with family and friends. Take some time for you as well. So this episode is called Slowing Down to Recharge. And I wanted to put this together for you because I feel like it's the time of year when I try to take some time for myself to do this. And I thought it might be helpful to hear some of the things that I'm doing and what I'm learning about rest, relaxation, sleep, and see if there's any of these that you could maybe put as a goal for yourself over the break, but also into the new year. So I wondered if you have ever thought about the amount of sleep you get, the amount of time you take off for yourself. I know when my kids were young, I was probably living on very few hours of sleep. And I had two children under the age of 3, and neither of them were great sleepers. And so I very much needed more sleep on a regular basis, but didn't always get it. And so I found that I became really good at that. And I think that's a habit that I wish I didn't have. But I'm sure that when I would go to work, the dark circles under my eyes were very apparent. But I developed this habit. And in some ways, it served me to be able to get a lot of things done and to be able to work a lot of different time zones and all kinds of stuff. But I don't think it served me as a person, right? It wasn't really good and healthy to not get much sleep. And so I wanted to share some of the things that I've learned along the way here. One of the things that I learned is that I wasn't great at maintaining boundaries. And I think that's something that we tend to put others in front of us. We give them the opportunities to get what they need, and we put ourselves last. So if this is an opportunity for you to think about that for yourself, where are you putting yourself last? Where are you letting other people kind of run your life, run your calendar, get to decide what they want, and you come last? Maybe that's an opportunity for you to shift that this year. And I didn't totally realize how important rest and relaxation and sleep were. But now that my kids are grown, I'm my own boss. I don't have a bunch of meetings on my calendar that I don't decide to put there. I can make different decisions, right? I can start to see where I deserve to be first, where I get to choose things that I want to do that bring me joy and happiness versus doing things that I don't really want to do and might resent the other person if I have to do them. So I started to say, what could I do to fill up my day and focus on things that bring me joy and happiness and not just be busy? Do things with intention, try to focus on what would actually make a difference. And it's important to do this because we tend to live in habits, right? We tend to have the same patterns. We do the same things every day. We talk to the same people every day, potentially, right? We don't always push ourselves out of our comfort zone. As an example, yesterday I had to take the dog to the vet, and I was in the car listening to a couple different podcasts that I like to listen to, but I haven't had a chance to do so lately. And what was interesting to me is the ideas that were discussed on there are not necessarily about my business or what I do, but they gave me ideas of how I could apply something that they talked about into my business. And so I thought, well, this is really fascinating. I need to be doing more of this, right? Because it gives you ideas that you can adapt either into your life or into your career. I think reading a book can do the same thing. It's very interesting to read books and hear what other people are doing. You can get inspired and motivated and learn new things from them that maybe you can adapt into your world as well. Because we tend to get stuck in a rut. We tend to do the same things over and over and over. And at some point, we're years have passed and we start to look back and realize that we could have been doing things differently, but we just didn't take the time. So I put together a list of ideas, just some things for you to think about, see if they're going to resonate for you, and some things that you might just want to try while you're off on break. So a lot of people have their family home. So what if you do a movie marathon? Just spend time watching all of your favorite either holiday movies or movies that make you laugh, just something that pushes you to not be working at all, hopefully, but also just spending time just being, just enjoying time with family. You can volunteer. A lot of people do this time of year where they're helping people with meals or packing food for people who need it. You could create a vision board for yourself. If you've never done one, you can do them electronically now, but you can cut pictures out of magazines and put together a vision board about what you want in your life or what you want in your career, and start to think about that. It's like speaking it into existence, right? Where you are starting to talk about the things that you really want in your life. If you're a journaler, you could journal and think about the things that are happening for you, what you learned this year, some areas that you want to do something different. You can read inspiring books, make art, do crafts, things like that. Paint can be very inspiring and just get you out of your head, because we live in our logical heads a lot of the time. And doing something on the creative side helps you get out of your normal day-to-day and start to look at the world in a different way. A lot of people take nature walks to help them get a new perspective. You can host a game night. You can do something kind for someone. You can write them a letter. You can pamper yourself, get a massage, or just have a bath at home. Just unplug and rest. I was thinking about this too yesterday. I can't remember the last time where I had nothing going on in the car, where I didn't have the radio on or Spotify or a podcast. And so I did that for a while yesterday. And it's really interesting because it allows your brain to start to think about things, and you just observe what's happening around you. So when was the last time you did that for yourself? Just had peace and quiet in the car. It doesn't happen very often, especially if you have kids. But if you don't, when you're by yourself, or even when you're in your house, when's the last time you didn't turn the TV on or didn't have music playing and you just sat and read a book, or you didn't do anything? Try it for yourself and see how it feels. It might feel a little uncomfortable because you're used to all of the noise happening around you, but explore it, see how it feels. I realized I need to say no to more things. I need to do the things that really make me happy and give me some time and space to think. And so you may recall in a previous episode, I talked about last year really spending time starting to think about how can I give myself more space and time. And I did that. And it was really a good experiment for me to do that. It felt a little uncomfortable at times, just having been used to being so busy that it was a strange feeling to not be busy, and to just put time on my calendar where I just thought about things and I spent time doing things that I wanted to do. And it was a good experiment, and I'm going to continue to do that. So I've built time into my calendar now on a regular basis where I do that. Or I'll have what's called a CEO day in entrepreneur world, where I just take an entire day and focus on that. Now, I know you may not be able to do that for an entire day, but what if you could do that for even an hour or a couple of hours, or take time in the morning to do that? So find ways to build space and time into your own life. And the reason I started to do this is because I recognize that I'm still not always getting enough sleep, and I really wanted to be intentional about that too. And so I focused on how to get myself to finish everything by like 10 or 10:30, give myself time to wind down, and maybe get in bed by 11, because I'm still trying to break this habit of having very few hours of sleep, and my body is used to that now. So it's going to take some time for that to unwind a little bit. But I found a great TED Talk playlist on sleep. And I think there are 5 or 6 videos in there that are really fascinating to understand what's happening for us when we sleep, and how not getting enough sleep really impacts our memory and our ability to retain information, how it affects your physical health, your mental health. And there are a lot of myths about sleep that are out there, but the more you know about it, the more you can do something about it that helps you. So in the world we're in today, we're being asked to sift through a lot of information, new ideas, and you can't do that if you're not getting enough rest and your brain isn't in a good place to focus on those things. So it can impact your decision-making, your creativity, your ability to concentrate and retain information. It also impacts your mood, your stress, your decision-making, having anger, more impulsivity. All of those things are impacted by not getting enough sleep. So I pulled some statistics. I'm just going to pull these up and take a look at them and share them with you because it was really interesting. So there's a global sleep crisis happening for us, and you probably have heard a lot about this. But there's a survey that says 40% of respondents get no more than 3 nights of good sleep per week. The sleepfoundation.org found that 49% of women get less than 7 hours of sleep per night compared to 41% of men. There's also a lot of evidence now that healthy sleep patterns are closely linked to mental health in teens, right? Teens are notorious for staying up late. And I think we all did that too, right? But we didn't have phones to keep us awake and constantly scrolling at things. So imagine like they're continuing to do that. And it's a bit of an addictive behavior, right? Because you keep looking at the next thing and the next thing. And pretty soon it's 3:00 in the morning. So it's good to understand where things are for our next generations that are coming. Americans are sleeping more than at any point in the past 2 decades. So there is a lot of good things that are starting to happen where there's more evidence. People are starting to talk about it more and recognize that we do need more sleep. But up to 2/3 of adults occasionally experience insomnia symptoms. And that changes a lot for women as they get older, go through menopause. All of those things impact you, and just age in general starts to pull you out of sleep on a regular basis. So it's something to be aware of and do what you can to get in bed and early enough and get enough sleep. So I'm putting more boundaries in place for myself. I'm really focusing on my sleep now, and I can tell a difference where I can go to bed earlier and I'll wake up before my alarm goes off, which is a good thing. And I remember my dad used to be able to do that on a regular basis too. And I'm more refreshed. I can think clearly. I can do things more in the morning now than I used to be able to. I usually write in the morning now because I have a clearer head and I can think about things and write in a better way. So whenever I have to write things, I usually save those for the morning. And I use the rest of the day for conversations and things that I can do that give me energy as well. So I'm coming up with a lot more creative ideas, a lot more present with people. And I pulled a quote from Arianna Huffington, who is the owner of the Huffington Post. And she wrote, "In order for women to generate the big ideas, they should sleep their way to the top." And she means literally sleep, not something else, right? That you could read into that. But it was an interesting quote, right? Because she has been a big proponent for getting more sleep and really focusing on that for everyone, wherever you are, whatever age you are. And if we can put good habits into place for people in the generations behind us, they can see that it is important and start to do more of that themselves. So we have to set a good example for those people coming up and just let them know that it is important and it is valuable and that we could all benefit from it. So today's action plan for you, I'm curious, what are the ways that sleep and or rest have affected your work and your life? Do you believe that getting more sleep would change things for you and your health? And that's the most important thing, right? We only have our health to keep us going, to be with our families, to do the work we want to do. And if we don't have good health, that impacts us at some point. So start to think about that for yourself. And then what is one idea that you could take away from this topic today that you might instill in your life and as a new habit, as something you're going to experiment with for a month? Try it out and see if it works for you. See what a difference it makes. Turn off the radio and the TV and see if you start to think differently, if it gives you more space to think, or listen or read something different than you normally would to see if it gives you new ideas. This is about trying stuff that helps you find ways to rest, relax, and get more sleep. Thanks so much for joining today on the Visibility Factor podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks so much for listening to the Visibility Factor podcast. Remember that visibility starts with small steps that are intentional and consistent each day. Be bold, be visible, be the leader you were meant to be. Find us and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Follow us on all of our social media platforms, which are highlighted in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Visibility Factor podcast.